Ladies and gentlemen, the biscuit is back. He's had to clamber out of the biscuit tin and start again because, well, we all know why. Nobody with any sense covers this subject anymore because the last time anybody with any kind of following did, the detestable creatures that run this lamentable platform slapped them around like a red-headed stepchild. Apparently, the industrial-scale torture, rape and occasional murder of children is not a significant enough cause for concern for the powers that be that you and I should hear about it. So Mr. Biscuit is going to have to handle this one. It's fine. He likes a good run out every now and then. Without further ado, let's get into it. The interview, as you can see, is with Winston Marshall, formerly of the band Mumford & Sons, forced into a hasty career realignment because cancel culture, which definitely doesn't exist, seen him turfed out of the band despite the fact he was with them since their inception and helped create a multi-platinum worldwide phenomenon. So yeah, it doesn't exist. Everyone knows that. Let's get into it. The opening 20 seconds are a revelation in and of themselves, and it gets much, much more interesting as the interview goes on.
Nothing cuts away at the conviction of the left on this issue more than the grooming gang scandal. They will deploy any method whatsoever to discredit the people who raise it.
If you aren't aware, last week Rishi Sunak and his Home Secretary, both of whom happen to have a bit of a tan, announced new measures to finally tackle this once and for all, and they are to be applauded for that. Sensible people, cynical, sensible people on the right, have pointed out many times that they believed it would be a good thing when the levers of power were held by people from ethnic minorities in the United Kingdom. Not because they're ideologically possessed, cultish zealots who think you should mathematically count up how many minorities live in a certain area and then determine mathematically which jobs they should be doing for some inane quest to bring around a socialist hellscape, global utopia. But because they knew that rather than the white people having all the power, the inverse is true, and because of a correction, a re-swinging of the pendulum, white people are neutered, completely neutered from doing anything about these issues. And they said, perhaps it's gonna take a minority individual or individuals to come in and finally grasp the nettle. Because did you really think some self-serving slimeball like Gordon Brown, the cycloptic Prime Minister, David Cameron, or that self-serving snake Nick Clegg were going to do anything about it? No. Turns out Rishi and Suella are happy to do something about it. And if they manage to pull it off, they deserve plaudits for that. But let's get into the meat of this video and the reason I made it, which is to try and get a few more eyes on just how bad things were and are. Because this should be headline news all around the world. And it isn't. Do the BBC want to talk about it? No, of course they don't.
The Home Office report found that data collection on ethnicity had been extremely poor across the country. So deep was the sense of concern about the racialized background of this crime, and so strong was the shrouding sense of political correctness that police forces and local councils and researchers and government data had simply failed to collect the data. They just hadn't done it. So many police forces had none at all. And indeed, since the Home Office report was published in 2020, some police forces have been found to still be failing to collect the data. So there has been a reticence to establish the truth about this.
On purpose. They're purposely not collecting the data because they don't want you to believe your lying eyes and they don't want you to listen to your lying ears. You know exactly what the ethnicity of 99% of these grooming gangs happens to be. And I know because we've got eyeballs. The old Mark 1 eyeball, trusty little orb that it is, doesn't tell lies. Unlike woke politicians and ministers, we all know the ethnicity, so they didn't collect it on purpose. Because they knew that we'd ask.
Yes, because I think they'll now be held to account. They have to do it now. And they will be punished if they don't. But this problem has been going on for so long, and people always refer back to this 2020 Home Office report when they say, oh, look, majority of abusers are white. That's obviously the case. This is a majority white country. 85% of the country is white. And so you'd expect with that proportion of the population, most abusers to be white. But when you actually consider things per capita and by proportionality, even with the Home Office's very weak data and underreported collection of data from police forces, British Pakistanis in particular are vastly overrepresented. Over 10 times more likely to be a grooming gang abuser, according to their own weak statistics.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that right. The men from one particular community are over 10 times more likely to be a member of a grooming gang than men from other communities. Let's say the Chinese community. Strange that, isn't it? Very odd. What community could he be talking about? Well, we know we're not allowed to say the words, so let's use an allegory. A community that really like kneeling on rugs when they're having a bit of a chat with God. Those fellas. Yeah, those fellas. And why? Well, Jack Straw told us why 15 years ago. Do you remember that? White girls are easy meat. I believe that was where the title for the book came from. Jack Straw under fire for making offensive remarks. Yeah, little girls are getting industrially tortured and raped, and he's a villain for making a stereotype. Yeah, totally fair and reasonable. Jack Straw was rounded on today after accusing some men of preying on white girls because they're easy meat. The former Home Secretary claimed there was a specific problem with the men after 2 of them were jailed for targeting vulnerable teenagers. Mr. Straw suggested young fellas deliberately look for the white girls and urged the community to be more open about the issue. Regulars at Allen's snack bar condemned the suggestion of a general problem as deeply offensive. Yes, you heard it right, ladies and gentlemen. Folding up little girls isn't deeply offensive, but talking about the ethnicity of the people that are doing said folding is extremely offensive. Cheers, easy.
By comparing the number of prosecutions with the overall population, you actually do find that British Pakistanis in particular, and British Muslims in general, dominate grooming gang statistics. The statistics are extremely troubling. Mm-hmm.
Well, he said the M word. That's the Spectator getting cancelled, and probably this channel, ladies and gentlemen, because talking about the industrial rape and torture of children is worse than the industrial rape and torture of children. This is where we are in 2023. Suzar doesn't like you talking about it, and Neil, my new nemesis, doesn't like you talking about it. So we'll move on, shall we? We'll move on. Nothing to see here.
These girls were being ignored by the social services, but this researcher from London was establishing a link with several of the survivors and convinced one of the victims to kind of come forward with her claims. And then that happened. Gets to the police station. How that message reached her and how the abuser knew that she was in the police station has never, ever been explained. The report that unveiled that crisis found no smoking gun. But it's almost certain that he was informed by someone in the police station she was there. And indeed, later, one of the police officers in Rotherham, PC Hassan Ali, was placed under investigation.
This is where it really does get like the plot from a bad Hollywood movie, right? Essentially, one of the young girls, who was a whistleblower, was finally convinced to go to the police station by a journalist from London. And then she was door-stopped at the police station by the rapist because he'd been told that she was at the police station. And in the long-form interview, again, I will put it in the comments, he talks about how it's because they're all related in these little insular communities. They all marry the cousins and everybody's related to everybody else. They're sort of like hillbillies, except in Rotherham. But what had obviously happened is one of the coppers from their little clique quickly rang the rapists and said, "You best get yourselves down here, boys. One of your victims is at my police station." And then this is when it gets positively born identity. Listen to this.
Later, one of the police officers in Rotherham, PC Hassan Ali, was placed under investigation for his corrupt role, his alleged corruption. And he died the same day. He was run over by a family friend. I mean, I spoke to you earlier about clannish attitudes and clannish links and how people don't dob in their family members. A police officer is put under investigation for his links to grooming gangs, and he is killed the same day, run over on a snowy drive near Sheffield.
That is brilliant, isn't it? Like a spy thriller, except with more bumming. Fantastic. Please watch the whole thing and share it. Don't worry about sharing this video, share that. Because everybody in Britain should watch it. And everybody that lied, cheated, covered up and smeared the young victims, every single person related to these cases should be prosecuted. And if the law was worth anything, dozens of heads would roll over this. And as far as I'm aware, none have. Let me know what you think as usual. Thank you for viewing, and I will see you all very soon, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers.